Hello everyone, it's Brian, and welcome back to Twilight Struggle, Play the Experts, the game where I play the experts, and you wish somebody would count all the cards on turn 3 for you. Alright, we are playing Theory, and we have arrived at turn 3, and we have counted out the cards. Everything from defectors to the left. He knows we have, so we just have to know that he knows that we know, and we know that he knows, and that he knows that we know, and all those other things. That just never gets old for me. So, we, however, also know the stuff that he's got. He's got the Suez Crisis, he's got decolonization, he's got the Middle East scoring card, the Fidel Castro card, and the Formosan Resolution. So, we need to make ourselves a plan here. And of course, the first two things that pop right out in our hand are A, the Asia scoring card, and B, the utter lack of any good headline cards. so that's kind of an issue, right? No big meaty decolonizations or anything else that we would like to activate. No mere captured Nazi scientists. Nothing, absolutely flapping nothing that is worth headlining. So in other words, we've just got to flap something out there. And then certainly one candidate for said flapping out there would be Asia scoring, because it looks like, if you just kind of look quick, it looks like it's just going to score for Zipperoni, and so if we've got to just flap something out in headline phase, then why not just flap that out and get it out of our faces? But let's look a little deeper at that, because first of all, in terms of we should look at the downsides of headlining Asian scoring. One thing that you might think was a downside, which would be a potential reshuffled Indo-Pakistani war, actually isn't that big of a deal, because we've got 6 countries, he's got 4 countries, and so even if he flopped the flooper, then he would only have 5 countries to our 5. He would not dominate. He would suddenly score 2 victory points plus the 2 for the war, plus he'd have ops. So it would be a cataclysm of awfulness. But only 2 of the points would a mere 2 of the 6 horrible victory points that we would lose would be ascribable to the fact that we had headlined it. But even 2 points is kind of a thing. A hypothetical 2 points would still be kind of a thing, because we could avoid those points in a non-headlining Asia scoring situation. And so that's the other thing, is to the extent that Asia could get worse, it doesn't really get all that worse, because we've got the 5-year plan. And if Asia goes all pear-shaped on us, then we can just wait till our last action round, play 5-year plan for ops, and oops, Asia scoring goes to the score pile, not to return until at least turn 7, a really, really long time in the future. Anything could happen, well, almost anything, between now and turn 7, and it might not even come back until literally we could never see Asia score again until the final scoring, just depending on how the deck goes in late war. Not everything even comes back at all. So yeah, we could relegate Asia scoring into the nothing pile at any time. We've got a backstop. And it does, you say, well, but you might need the 5-year plan card for something more important later. And while sort of true that we might, the thing is, look at the board as we see it right now. Asia and the Middle East, well, they're both scoring this turn, so they are going to be in the discard pile before we would ever be in the future with the 5-year plan with them. Europe is a favorable scoring, and the rest of the board is empty. It's really, really empty. So, in other words, there aren't right now any bad scoring cards for us. Now, clearly a bad scoring card will probably, develop for us, because I don't predict that everything is going to go perfectly for the rest of the game, and if so, the game will be very short. But the thing is, it will take a while for a bad scoring card to, rear its head. And then we have to also draw the scoring card, and we have to, most importantly, have carefully nursed 5-year plan along for several more turns. It's going to be at least turn 5 or turn 6, I would think, before we are going to really possibly have an opportunity to do that. The opportunity may never come, and we will have to, 5-year plan does come with some hand hinkiness, as it were, where, some extreme awkwardness with things like, it interacts awkwardly with CIAs and grain sales and Voices of America and all sorts of other things like that. And so we could get into a jam, and we are on the double space track, double space shot track right now, but we may not be for if we really need it in the future. So I don't think of, if we need to 5-year plan out Asia at the end of the turn, I don't think of that as a big, hand management loss. I think of it as fine. And so in other words, Asia is all upside. Because let's now look at the upside of holding on to that Asia, baby. Because if you watch the movie Star Trek IV, you may be familiar with that ancient Vulcan saying, "Only Nixon could cram in the entire China card." and see, we've got 3 battlegrounds. He's got 3 battlegrounds, but we got 6 countries, and he's only got 4 countries. And none of his countries are over-controlled at all. He has a bare margin in all of those countries. So imagine it came to the end, and I crammed the entire China card into South Korea, right? I could put 4 points into there with the 5 points from the China card. And so I would go to 5. Now, remember what cards he has in his hand that we know. They're bad cards. He's got bad cards and low ops and ops that have extremely unfortunate consequences attached to them. So, we don't know what he could have 2 4-card. I guess the nightmare hand would be his other 3 cards being Red Scare Purge, Nuclear Test Ban, and Duck and Cover. That would be god awful, but he probably doesn't have that. But that's his best possible case. But he could have, there's all sorts of little crud he could have, and crud that has consequences for him. And so it's not like, and here we are, we know we've got a bazillion 4 cards, plus we know that we have at least 2 of them in the sense of the China card and the Japan card. And, we are extra well positioned to play for ops here. If an ops war gets going, so there's a good chance he doesn't even have a 4-card, and so if we manage to perform a surgical China card cram right at the end there, then we might actually get to dominate Asia if he doesn't have at least a 4-card. Now, in order to make him have to have a 4-card, I would have had to applied 1 point beforehand into North Korea, which fortunately is a reasonable structural play for us, although it is a bit of a I'm about to play the China card tell, so, it'll probably, if he sees a point going to North Korea, well, he's probably going to kind of wake up and pay an extra high amount of attention to to Asia as soon as we do that. But nonetheless, it's at least a threat, and that brings us to the other upside of maintaining, since there's we've established there's no downside in holding Asia. The upside of it is, hey, we might get to dominate. I will totally cram the cruncher on him if I get the chance to, but he, if nothing else, is going to have to be highly aware of the threat. And I guarantee you, he is 100% aware of most of the cards we have in the interaction, and he's going to be aware of this whole 5-year plan thing, so he's not going to want to overcommit in Asia, which means that he's not going to want to sit there and fill up a bunch of Asian countries and use his ops over there. And so there is a reasonable chance that, we could come toward the end and the Asia looks almost like this. And so either then the threat of cramming the entire China card or the actuality of cramming the entire China card could come into play he has to start enduring bad events or using all his ops or any of those things. We would certainly be happy to have him spend a lot of resources to fight us to a stalemate in Asia. And we don't have to spend, so I don't have to play a lot in Asia this turn. And maybe if it gets toward the end, I might prep it with a North Korean kicker so that I could cram an entire China card into South Korea. So that's not my preferred headline. There are two other somewhat reasonable headline-y cards, and those are Defectors and Truman Doctrine. So Defectors, which I'm actually very happy to see, because it means we're just gonna never get defectored. No Defectors, because it came to us and it came on the turn, it came on the reshuffle. Normally if we play it during the turn, it's 2 ops, but we lose a point. So we could just blow that baby out in headline phase. It doesn't cost a victory point if you headline it. Plus you get the fun of that moment of panic. I always, when I'm the American player and the Soviets headline Defectors, I always have a moment of panic that he just defected my card. Oh no, he defected Marshall Plan. Oh wait, oh right. So there's that. And let's just compare Truman Doctrine. So Truman Doctrine is a 1 card, so we would actually be blowing an even lower card out. And this is a card that we pretty much probably have to endure this turn one way or the other, because unless we're going to play the China card so we could hold it and 5-year plan for some reason, not that I think there's a strong reason, it's got to go. And so, our guys in either Austria or Finland are toast. There's no super downside risk in a headline because NATO is not yet in effect, and so he can't, there's no chance that he's going to suddenly pop Italy open with a special relationship headline and burn our castle to the ground. So it's relatively safe, and I stuck those guys there to be a little future investment for destalinization, but destalinization just went to space, so who knows when that's coming back or if we'll even get it when it does. So there's no point in trying to hold out to keep Austria Soviet or something. So it's it's definitely a blowout and get rid of it, and since it's lower ops, then that's attractive. And see, Defectors is big enough to space. It fits through that space conduit. And so then the question is, well, there's something else I should space, and I don't think so. I think Defectors, the -1 is a nice thing. The only other really medium bad card is NATO. I'm going to be putting NATO into effect, presumably, but I get 4 ops for that. And I can do a lot with 4 ops. Now, if NATO is in effect, then I'm not going to ever be able to coup or realign in Europe again. Apart from weird little side de Gaulle and Willy Brandt circumstances, maybe. But the thing is, I've already got Italy, so that would be the place I would coup. Because I already have Italy, I certainly hope I'm not ever going to need to brush war Italy again. And the likelihood I would have the opportunity to brush war Italy if I needed to is, out in the medium-small probability. All those things, for him to get brush war me out of it successfully, and then for me to redraw the brush war and want to use it on Italy. And him not also owning a whole bunch of toucher countries to protect it so that it's even possible. That seems extra really low, right? So I'm kind of like, I'll take the 4 ops for NATO, and I'm gonna want to space Defectors. Now, Warsaw Pact, Europe is back in there, and so I could headline that and get a whole bunch of Czechoslovakians and Yugoslavs going and try to play for more of a Europe domination. That would seem more relevant to me if he hadn't done Marshall Plan. If all those little 2 countries were sitting open, then I could see making a big old push might make sense with that. But as it is, I'd rather have Warsaw Pact for 3 nice free ops, and that also maintains the Warsaw Pact thing for the late war so that he won't get too uppity in Eastern Europe. Again, right now I control 3 European battlegrounds, so his uppityness is only going to be so uppity in Europe, but it helps keep Europe Soviet, and it's the threat of it coming back is at least, it's not nothing. So, thing 1 established. I think the headline is Truman Doctrine, and we're going to hold on to Asia through the turn, maybe try to cram China card at the end if it's possible, otherwise just play it for 0 or excrete it through the 5-year plan pipe in order to both get 3 ops and not have that happen to us. But the rest of the plan for the turn is going to involve some looking at his hand. We need to look at what is in his hand. So, first of all, he's got the Middle East scoring card. And that's it's unfortunate that he's got it. It's unfortunate that it's going to be scored at all, frankly. This turn, because right now he not only dominates it, but he dominates the crap out of the Middle East in that he's up by 2 battleground countries in a 3-to-1 country count. And there is, not only is there absolutely nothing in my hand I can do about it in headline phase, imagining him headlining Middle East scoring, not only is there nothing I can do about it, but there's nothing I could have done about it if I had some other cards. So there's not even the threat I could headline something in order to therefore, I would love to have a threat big enough that he wouldn't be able to guarantee dominating Middle East if he headlined it, so that then I could coup Egypt with a giant card on my first round. But unfortunately, even Nasser would only knock one of his countries out, and it would just knock a point off, and he would still dominate it for, I guess, 3 instead of 4 victory points. But I think that still would be a fairly decent win for him. So I think we're most likely to see a Middle East headline because it guarantees he will get the domination, and it keeps me from having any counterplay by coupping Egypt. Because remember at the end of the last turn, he put his last 1 into Iraq instead of Libya, which on the one hand keeps me from having an easy coup into Libya, but on the other hand means that a success in Egypt actually knocks him out, cuts his access to Libya, and potentially gives us access to Libya. And potentially, if we roll, I think, coupping with a 4 card, so I think if I roll at least a 4, so that's a 50% chance of getting in with at least 2, so that would be instantly removing his domination. So if he lets this go into our action round 1 and we can still coup, then there is at least a 50-50 chance that we take his domination away entirely. And I think that if we win that we actually end up denying him domination. I don't think he can realistically recover domination against our hand this turn if an Egypt coup succeeds. So I think that means he needs to not let an Egypt coup happen, which means a Middle East headline, or if he was lucky enough to redraw for this turn, nightmare card of duck and cover, then it makes an unbelievably good headline, because then he can headline that we are not going to get a coup, and he gets 3 points, and then he gets to dominate, and it'll just be a cataclysm. So let's just tell ourselves that he didn't redraw duck and cover because it's so horrible. So therefore, I feel like that is what we're looking at from him, is most likely a Middle East headline. He knows we got Asian scoring, but even if he redrew Indo-Pakistan, well, of course, if he thinks we're going to headline, if he thinks we might headline Asia scoring, then I can see how an Indo-Pakistan war, it not only gets him ops, but it also might get him 2 extra, and then the 2 extra victory points, and then it might get him the 2 victory points if we foolishly scored it. But he also knows we have 5-year plans, so he might know that we know that there's no downside in holding Asia. So, I could see that one. I think Indo-Pakistani war comes down to a little bit of a game of turn 3 chicken, of who's going to headline the thing that they know the other person, blah, 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 blah. So those are his most likely, that's his headlining theory. And then the rest of his hand, okay, so decolonization is, it's funny, he's actually overjoyed to see it, or it's probably more likely that he's been dragging it along for a while to get it to this point, because that's definitely going to space, and it's not going to be back for a long time. So he knows we're not going to get to decolonize. We're not going to get to decolonize. Now, Fidel and Suez are both also bad for him. He could hold one of them till next turn, and it'll kind of depend on, he can wait and see, if he Middle East headlines, then he can see, are we going to coup Panama or whatever, and if we get in, maybe that changes his feelings on Fidel. One of those cards he can hold till next turn, but one of those is going to have to endure. Suez has the awkwardness that it costs him 4 points and he can only put 3 back. But on the other hand, Europe is, well, it's back in the mix. It's back in the mix, so it's not totally nothing. There's a little bit of threat to Europe that he has to worry about. But he can endure that as mostly a null thing, whereas Fidel lets us touch his superpower, and he might not want to let us touch his superpower. So one of those might be his hold card. Of course, maybe he, is there anything even worse for him that he could want even less? I don't know, De Gaulle or something. Maybe he extra would. But he could have the other version of a nightmare plan. He could be holding his own personal nightmare hand, and that would be a lot of little tiny things plus some horrible Soviet event cards. So we can always hope for that version of reality, but in any event, it sort of looks like one of those 2 cards gets endured and one of them maybe gets held, and he'll probably wait and see what things are all looking like this turn before we do it. If we suddenly start playing as if the European card is reshuffled and is in our hand, then that'll probably inform his decisions about Suez. And if we couped Panama with a massive card, then that might inform his thoughts about Fidel. But that actually brings us to so what would our coup be if he does headline, when he probably headlines the Middle East scoring card, and even though Egypt gives us access to Libya and removes his access to Libya, there is the whole Saudati aspect of that, and so it all becomes a lot less compelling when the Middle East has already scored for the last time until at least turn 7. Even the potential OPEC-iness just kind of, the enthusiasm unfortunately drains away, and so that leaves us with only 2 other legal places to take a big whomping coup, and that is the sort of obvious-ish Panama, which would, with a 4 card, that actually guarantees cutting his access to Panama, and 5 and 6 chance gets us in, so it gets us some exposure to a place we want to be. Since we know he controls the Fidel card, then that's got some upside. But let's also look at the not quite so obvious South Africa, because it's a 3. So we'd have to roll. So a 3 knocks him out, and a 4 or better, a 50% chance of getting in if we couped it with presumably the Japan card. But let's look at that. It's not as guaranteed to succeed, but it's pretty darn likely to succeed. And notice that he controls decolonization. We're effectively never getting it. De-Stalinization has shuffled back into the deck, perhaps to return, but perhaps not to return. And we don't have anybody in France. De Gaulle is already de Gaulle. We could manually cram one through, but he can beat us to Algeria if and when we try it, if he, has some ops. So the thing is, we're not exactly in a great position on getting into Africa. And so a a 2/3 chance to at least get him out of the southern half of Africa. That's 3 battlegrounds down there. And a 50% chance to get us in to a place where we've just run out of some of our... there's some mid-war cards that get us in down there, but getting him out before he gets going is strong, right? And so that may be the strongest coup we have in a in a Middle East headline scenario, in a non-coupping the Middle East scenario. So I feel like the plan for this turn is as follows. It headline Truman Doctrine, plan to space defectors at some time, but no hurry, and Eastern Europe for ops. US, Japan is a totally free play for ops because we did, even though we didn't get a 4-2 super dominatorial Asia, we did force him to manually fill Japan, so now that's a free play. Warsaw Pact for ops, NATO for ops, and we're gonna use our ops to fill places that we need to fill. Hopefully we'll coup in, we'll have a successful coup into somewhere, one way or the other, and so we'll either be filling out from Egypt or we'll be filling out from South Africa or something. And we're going to kind of leave Asia mostly a quiet backwater, a peaceful, quiet backwater, except perhaps toward the end of the turn, put a protector into North Korea, an overprotector, and then possibly cram the whole China card, or possibly 5-year plan away Asia if that all goes to disaster. So that is the plan. I think it is a strong one. All right, so let's headline Truman Doctrine for what it is worth. Blow that baby out there. Bye-bye our guys in Austria. And let's see what he's got. Oh, it's the Indo-Pakistani War. Oh, my heart's beating. Here it comes, here it comes. We got one toucher. Oh, and he does not make it in. And we got chat box. I always feel like when I see a war card on headline, I get chat box. It usually means they lost the war. That's my sort of my psychology. But boy, that would have been a heart pounder if we'd headlined Asia. Okay, so now it's time. He stayed away from the Middle East. So now maybe I get a chance to punish him for something that he has done. And, we rolled a 6. That is an embarrassment of riches. So Sadat is going to reap a rich reward of of Soviets to send home someday. That is 2 more than we needed. But he gets nothing else in Japan, and we have cut his access to Libya, and we have put a huge plug into Egypt. It's too much. More, but if we ever get destalinisation, that's good destalinisation fuel, I'll tell you, because as soon as Sadat comes up, every one of those guys is just dead. All right, he got a 4-op too, so he did have a 4-op, so that might be part of his thinking that he can compete with us in these places. So yeah, see what he has done is obviously now he's trying to save his Middle East domination, and he's taken Saudi Arabia, and then he's gone ahead of us. So we need a 4-op, or we'd have to turn loose the China card, which then he knows we can't do the 5-year plan thing if we do that, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the odds? He's thinking that we drew a 4-op card. What indeed are the odds? All right, a player after my own heart. That is, yes, always better to be lucky than good. That is indeed an important motto. All right, but what are the odds that we could have drawn yet another 4 card? Well, in fact, we drew one. So whatever the odds were, now he can either take Israel or he can surrender the Middle East scoring card, because obviously there's no way he's gonna dominate now. So yep, he sees the writing on the wall, he surrenders, and he has no reason do an expensive and risky fill of Israel when that just plays into my hand, because I need to, before next turn, I need to get something sticking over into Libya, because as soon as, if he drew Sadat, he could headline it and wipe me from the face of Egypt with that. So I need to get myself before the end of this turn into Libya, and there's no reason for him to give me extra encouragement to do that. Okay, so now we have the rest of our turn, and again, our core thing is we want to hold out, rope-a-dope a little bit. I was hoping we'd be kind of going through the turn with some more, with one of the 4 ops still available to us to participate in a possible ops war in Asia, to try to force domination on through paying the iron price, through cramming the China card. But we have the China card, so we're just going to try to play it cool in China, just in case he wants to get busy with other things instead. And we'll just see what he does. So I think this time is a good time to just kind of spin the tempo on a space shot, and maybe we'll get some points. No, we have failed. Too bad for us. Okay, decolonization. That is his space shot. And notice that he has denied us a second shot because, there would be the question of, one of the ways I could theoretically just kind of rope-a-dope and temporize and not get too excited, not make Asia look too exciting would be to actually space European unrest to try to get the point. A 3-op card for 2 points is actually a pretty good exchange. If we did it, I might have done it. I would have been kind of agonizing over it, but it's not like I have a lot of really clear places I desperately need ops right now. My spots are pretty full. I do want to over control. Goals for ops: A, Libya; B, over control North Korea; C, maybe cram the entire China card into South Korea. And then beyond that, I guess I could try to poke a poker into France to get to threaten Algeria, whatever. But yeah, so I've got a little bit ops to burn, and I need to burn some. So let's accomplish some of the things we need to do. I'm going to put those guys there, and even though it's a little bit of a China card play indicator, I'm going to go ahead and over control North Korea, so that, again, if I cram the entire China card, that he'll need a 4 card, which at this point is very unlikely that he has. The last one would be Red Scare Purge, that it could have reshuffled. But over controlling North Korea is sort of a signal of thinking about playing the China card, because of course it protects me against having the China card crammed back later. But there's nothing for it but to do it, and it's a good structural basic piece of homework for us anyway. So now it's done. Now it's done. Suez Crisis. All right, so he is, he's got to endure. We expected him to endure the Suez Crisis. And so the question is, which things do I want to take off? I guess since the Middle East has scored, that the point in Israel is, and I've got 4 guys in Egypt, that his point in Israel and having access to cram things into Egypt is not that important. And on the other hand, France, obviously 2 points are coming out of there. I feel like I'd actually rather knock 2 points out of the UK than any out of Israel, for 2 reasons. And one is that NATO is in effect, and so special relationship could be coming at some point. And so giving me the opportunity to either play it for free or to have him not over-controlled, so I can use the 2 points from special relationship to break his control before the event resolves and avoid that horrible 2-point thing, and that thereby also avoid, quote-unquote, having to space special relationship. Those are things I'm thinking. But also another thing is that actually will temporarily establish domination in Europe. Now, obviously, he's as likely as not to just put all this crud back, right? We'll put 3 of the 4 things back. But I want to do the biggest, gruntiest thing I have, but I like the idea of really cutting his country control so that he has to put at least 2 of the points back just to keep me from having an insta-domination. Because, he doesn't actually even know that I don't have the European scoring card right now. I mean, it's unlikely given that, well, actually, he may. He may know I don't now. I think I played. I may have. I think he knows I have European unrest. And he definitely knows I have the other 2. So I think I might be out of mystery, and so now he knows I don't have it. So yeah, there you go. Counting cards on turn 3 is important. But anyway, turn 4 is coming, and it could shuffle around. And so anyway, thinking of ways to put the most pressure. I feel like 2 out of the UK puts more pressure on him and good for me than 1 out of Israel, even though Israel is a battleground. And let's see what he does. So that's for influence, not surprising. Okay, nice one. That clearly he is completely hip to the China card cram maneuver, and he has decrammed the China card. Obviously, I could still, just forcibly insert the China card, pay the iron price twice back to back in South Korea, and then put 1 more extra point in. But that's pretty low odds, right? Because any card he had pretty much could sew that thing back up at that point. So yeah, by over-controlling all of his battlegrounds, he has turned off the China card cram play. So we have to kind of refigilate our turn. So we've got 2 more plays left. We've got the Asia scoring card. And the decision I have to make is whether at the end of this turn I'm going to 5-year plan off Asia, to get the three ops for 5-year plan and just discard the Asia card to the event, or if I want to hold 5-year plan and by playing the Asia card. And the thing is, if you've followed this series, I have a long-standing, beautiful love affair with the 5-year plan card as the Soviets. However, when you look at it, there aren't any bad scoring cards per se coming up for me. And so I think, yes, the answer is we're going to play Eastern European Unrest now, and then we're going to play 5-year plan for ops for our final action round, and just start with a nice clean hand for next turn. All right, so resolve event first. Always, you can get lazy. It's always so tempting to get lazy and just do the thing you want to do because he's going to take the stuff off. But it's really always better, unless your time clock is like in really bad shape, it's always to your advantage to just make him do the thing. Don't let him even if it seems obvious, don't let him see what you're definitely doing, because it can definitely give him, give the other side a little bit more wumpity wump. So we did that, and he did in fact take it off the expected places. All right, so what are we going to do? First of all, getting a guy into France is never going to be cheaper than right now. So we're just going to stick one in, which not only threatens France, which is only a little bit important, but it threatens going into Algeria, which is extra, extra important. So that's 1 point. I'm going to seal up Thailand, and I may be fighting earlier game. I just may have some psychological damage on the point of Thailand and double over control. But I've got some slightly extra ops this round, so I'm just going to do it. And I think I wouldn't always necessarily care all that much about Romania, but in this case, it is the key non-battleground for the European domination threat. And I want to be able to threaten a European scoring headline next turn if I should be so fortunate, or if he should fear that I should be so fortunate, more to the point, so that, to kind of force him to hopefully either think hard about Europe and blow a lot of stuff there instead of somewhere else. Because, things we'd rather him not do are start filling up countries in Africa, be the number one thing, and protecting Panama and blah, 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 blah. So that is why I'm doing that, making the threat I can make. It's a big, nice, grunty domination threat. All right, here comes Motion Resolution. 4 influence, and he has decided he would like to definitely get back in control of France. Notice it does not remove yet the European domination threat, so there's that. All right, and 5-year plan. It is time for it. And what are we going to do? We are going to go ahead and get out, since he didn't go to Algeria, he chose France, so we choose Algeria. And so now we have plugged him up there, and also made absolutely sure, because we're not going to get to decolonize, by the way, and may not get to destalinize anytime soon. So getting something into Africa so that, he can't dispose of it empty or find a way to fill it up real quick once DEFCON is 2 is definitely an important, kind of positional thing. And between Algeria and Spain, I think Algeria is, I think it's more important to put 2 in Algeria than to be able to put a full 3 points into Spain. But I am concerned about, I obviously like my domination threat, but the point there is less about realistically thinking I can maintain domination in Europe and more about trying to buy a little bit of brush war insurance for Italy later on. Because if he gets brush war in the mid-war with the board even remotely looking like this, then he's brush warring Italy, and that's a 2/3 chance that he will succeed. So I would love to get something, at least one nice red toucher would comfort me, and of course it makes Spain harder for him to plop up. So we're gonna do a point in good old Spain, and that is going to retire Asian scoring. Unscored Asia, we hardly knew ya. And we see what he does. He has got a 2-pointer, and he has decided he has filled the UK back up to be ready for any, either his or my special relationship. And he is going a 2nd point into Panama. Now, that's interesting. I think of the more common move is to stick 1 point into Costa Rica, so that then if the Soviets coup it, if it goes down to 0 or even 1 Soviet, then the U.S. has access. In this version, on the one hand, it does give him a real presence, so he could draw Central America scoring next turn and headline it in some safety. Now, obviously, there's things like junta anyway and liberation theology, so it's not like it's that safe. So it does make it a little harder for me to coup Panama, but it makes the success condition much more successful because I cut his access. So I have to roll 1 higher to coup him down to at least 0, but if I coup him down to 0, then he doesn't have access either, even if I don't get in. If I get in, then he's out of there, whereas, in the Costa Rica situation. He also didn't choose to do something that I also usually don't choose to do, which he didn't choose to poke the point into Colombia to try to into turn play me. And obviously the thing is going to turn 4, there's a huge number of chances that he's going to draw something, some really good headline for him, like either junta or grain sales, especially something where if he had then done that, he's actually kind of interfering with his own ability to steal the coup. I don't tend to do that as the U.S. unless I'm in a really desperate situation. He's not in a desperate situation. We've gotten the somewhat positional better of him in the 3 early war battlegrounds, but not in any. We certainly haven't gotten anywhere on the scoreboard. And he's disposed of decolonization and half disposed of destalinisation. So we have a difficult road to get into those mid-war battlegrounds. The mid-war cards tend to somewhat favor the U.S. in terms of the events that are on them. So he's in pretty good shape, having come out of the early war without us having any. He's doing just fine and dandy. So that is that. So let's look at our turn 4 hand. Oh boy, interesting hand. That is full of little U.S. event landmines, isn't it? Now there's a hand that I would have loved to draw if I was him this turn. He would love to see this hand. What a great hand that would be for the U.S. because he's got his best headlining event, grain sales. He's got a totally free 2 points and pop Italy open like a little special relationship thing. A perfect end of round play. He would have de-Stalinization to send to space. He's got the Usuri thing with the China card, wherever the China card. I mean, that would be a good hand for him if he had it. So I'm glad he didn't get this hand because I can at least somewhat mitigate this hand. But I'm not overjoyed I got this specific hand. There's only one thing I'm overjoyed about, and that is that I got de-Stalinization and that I got it soon face. And there's not even defectors. They're just not even defectors, so we can even safely headline it. And so which the reason to do is to get a little plug put into Angola before he can play out on the first round and just start locking in some awesome Africa while we also get over into all the good parts of South America, etc., etc., etc. Grain sales is going to have to go to space. It's absolutely unplayable. Missile Envy is not likely to be playable as the event for us because we do not know where We Will Bury You is, and so we do not want to have a very embarrassing way of losing the game. De Gaulle is not important as an event. That's going to be 3 ops for us. Special Relationship, since we need to space grain sales, we won't be spacing that, and so most likely I will try to just use the 2 ops, break control of the UK with it, and then the event resolves and he doesn't control the UK, so he gets nothing. So that's hopefully what we'll do. If as soon as the DEFCON is 2, that would be the first thing I did. But this still leaves us with a lot of really unpleasant events of his, and so we're gonna have to. We can only space 1. We might be able to hold 1. We could hold 2 if we have to, but we need to kind of stack rank their awfulness. Grain sales is the most awful, so it's the space shot. Special Relationship, we can poot it off for nothing, so that'll be that. And between the other 2, Usuri probably gets held uncomfortably, and Shuttle Diplomacy maybe gets injured. We could, in theory, try to play the China card and hold both of them. Of course, he might have Nixon and stuff, so we'd need to, if we're going to play China for hand management, we would want to think about ways to play it early before bad things happen. So there we are. In terms of plan for the turn, it's headline de-Stalinization and expand as quickly as possible in Africa and South America before he can realign us or otherwise do us any harm. Meanwhile, enduring all these events and excreting grain sales to space at whatever reasonable opportunity. It'll be more important to expand out from Angola and South America than it will be to immediately take the space shot. But there is some urgency in the space shot because there's 2 points in the line to whichever of us succeeds in space first. So de-Stalinization is the headline, safe from defectors. Oh, and it's a purge. Oh, that turns our world on its head. All right, let's do de-Stalinization first. Remember when we got 4 guys in Egypt, and I pointed out that those are doomed to be vaporized by Sadat. So I'll happily pull 2 of them out of Egypt. Those are completely extra guys. This guy in Vietnam is somewhat extra. There is nobody else that I just don't care about at all as a point of influence. I think the least meaningful thing we have is the point in Finland, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the point in Finland. Now, priorities. Number 1 priority, plug up Angola before he gets there. Number 2 is get over to South America, both halves of it. Then there's the third thing. And so there's Nigeria or there's like Mexico. We've seen him space Fidel, so we know he's not going to, we're now dependent on either this card or Junta or Liberation Theology to get us into one of those battlegrounds over there. On the other hand, those battlegrounds, he's got a +1 realignment against them. And we've got some cool Nigeria. So, and we're going to get a big old, we got a kind of a nice, we're not going to get a 4-point coup. We're going to use a 4-point card, but we're not going to get a 4-point coup against Panama. So I guess I'm going to try to get into Central America with Panama, and we will go for the big Africa. Since we're not getting decolonization, if I leave Nigeria open, I'm just kind of begging him to draw the colonial rearguards card and fill it up before, or puppet governments or whatever. So this is my chance to really make Africa a big scoring threat to him. Now, let's look at the rest of the situation for us, which is, so now we got to play our action round, but everything is at -1, and that means we cannot space grain sales, and we cannot space special relationship, and that is horrible, absolutely horrible, because grain sales is an existential threat. Special relationship is 2 victory points and a huge threat to Italy, which it would be difficult to counter. The one thing we can do, and so we can space either Usuri or shuttle diplomacy. Those at least will space. So I feel like I want to play the China card this turn. I feel like I want to play it so that I can hold both special relationship and grain sales. Because, see, it's just hard for me to contemplate playing a 1-op that gives him 2 points and 2 ops if I have any other, alternative. And so I think I want to play China, space Usuri, so he doesn't get any of that horrible stuff, which also kind of lowers the consequences for us of the whole not having the China card thing anymore. And then I'll have to endure shuttle diplomacy. At least the only good thing about that is that both the Middle East and Asia are done for a long while, and so it's a more, he'll get something for that in the future, but it's a much more indefinite, distant future, so we're putting off the bad stuff. And with the rest of the card, we're going to be taking a number of little 1-op horrible little things, and our only decent cards are De Gaulle and Flower Power in terms of even medium-sized plays. So I'm actually not going to use Flower Power for the coup as much as I want into Panama. I just don't feel like I can afford it. I need to keep some reserve in the tank so that I can, if we get into an iron price paying war in Angola or something, I'm going to have something. All right, so I think it's going to be a coup in Panama. Okay, so, we came up 1 short. So, yeah. Imagine a world where, he had not played Purge, and we had played Flower Power instead of whatever, then, we'd be sitting extra pretty in Central America. But such was not to be. So, here comes NORAD. Okay, so, yes, iron price it is, huh? All right, so I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get Zaire. If I had the full 4-ops from this, I could also take Angola back, and I probably would in that case. But I think instead I'm going to try to just spread my seed in South America while I can, and I'm going to go ahead and get a presence in South America in case he's got the scorecard, so he can't dispose of the scorecard for nothing. I suspect if he had the scorecard, he probably would have already disposed of it, but you never know what other cards he's got. I have not yet completely protected South America from, much less Africa from a Voice of America play, but I'm working towards it with, trying to get Venezuela to 3 or something like that. Oh, wah! wah, wah, ABM treaty is coming, and I'm pretty sure it's going to Argentina. And it went to Argentina. Okay, well, our dreams of loan access to South America are completely over. He has rolled a giant, whopping, crushing. Well, he's got 4 guys in there. And so if you're, for the newer players, obviously he had a few places he could have chosen. And although Brazil also provides him access to South America, and although various battlegrounds in Africa are even more likely for his coup to succeed, the coup in Argentina, uniquely and alone in this case, cuts my access to that side of the continent. And so now my chances of dominating South America are getting vanishingly small, especially with this giant 4 down in there. Now, we'll see about Allende and whatever, but he has mostly nullified my move into South America, fully countered and mitigated it with that coup. Now, he used a great card, but he made the correct play with the great card, so that's totally awesome. So we get to play one little op somewhere, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and move Venezuela to 3 as a protection, mostly against Voice of America, because Voice of America, he can only do 2 per country, so now he can't knock me fully out of there. It also gives us a little bit of protection if Panama Canal return comes up. So, little things you can do with 1 point. That's the thing I did. Oh, there's Fidel going to space. That's right, he didn't space it. He had held it, but now he's spacing it. So, I think I said he had already spaced it before, but I think I just kind of psychologically knew that he had effectively spaced it by managing to hold it through turn 3. So, more horrible things. Let us endure shuttle diplomacy. I'm going to try to make threats where I can. Going into Malaysia, because getting Indonesia would help me both when Southeast Asia scores and would help me protect Thailand from a brush war. Not that Italy isn't the main brush war candidate. And I'm going to protect Zaire from any more of this iron price behavior. And shuttle diplomacy goes into effect for some kind of late game rendezvous for us. CIA for influence. Okay, I am glad to see that card come out, because when I am having to on pain of death carry grain sales an extra turn and play China card, I definitely want to see this going away. All right, so yeah, he's blocking me from Indonesia. That's it's a 2-point swing, whichever one of us gets it. So yeah, that's a pretty good investment, even when Asia is not, the scoring card itself is not particularly in play. All right, well, that certainly eliminates any final qualms I have about playing the China card. Not that, sitting there with you, Surrey, that there's not a lot of ways around it. So we're gonna plug up Asia here. And so we're getting ready for a nice scoring in Southeast Asia, and we're also looking down the line to when the Asia scoring card comes back around, potentially with shuttle diplomacy still in effect. I have 8 countries, and so he has a much higher hill to climb. The Indo-Pakistan War is already out of play. So yeah, we've got 8 countries, so it'll be harder for him to dominate Asia. And having just played the shuttle diplomacy card, since we need to play China anyway, I feel like that is a somewhat reasonable place to play it. Now, one could argue, alternatives. I could have gone ahead and taken Spain. I could have filled up Brazil some more. Anyway, I don't have a lot of ops. This is what I chose to do. Go ahead and get my +1 op for that. All right, Panama Canal. So he is eventing that, and that gets him both a presence back into Panama and threatens Brazil. So at least it was good that we had Venezuela person. Here is our Missile Envy that we are it's not safe to play that for the event, but it does let us close up Brazil, so that is okay. All right, U2 incident for at least us getting a victory point, and he's going to break the control there. Interesting. All right, so he is pressing us while he's got some ops pressure in South America. I don't think he has a scorecard, do you? I'm just thinking about what else he could have done with ops in case, to see if this is just the logical. Is this the most obvious place for an extra op on his part, or is this an unusual play and therefore something's afoot? I don't see anything. He certainly didn't have a iron price paying location. There's not a lot of all the old scoring regions are gone. I don't see a clear path to dominating South America for him this turn. I'm going to go ahead and get my space race done, and let's see what he does. All right, well, 2 ops is not going to be enough to take over Brazil. And he has broken control also of Algeria. So he's got a whole bunch of broken control areas as threats for us. And so, we go to turn 5, we go to your homework. So here are our cards. We've kept the 2 cards that we kept, and we've got some new ones. So I would like to hear from you in comments, what do you think of this hand? What do you think of any of the things that went on in play before? But also, what is your plan with this hand? What is headlining? What is going to space? What is just a real pain in the neck? Pain in the Soviet. And yeah, that's where we are. We're heading into the full-on mid-war next time, and we will see you then on Twilight Struggle. Play the experts.